Hi, everybody. So, I just want to give a quick reaction to this John Connors apology, bizarre controversy, saga type of thing, and the latest little bit of news on it. Because a few people asked me to. Now, I haven't looked too deeply into it, thought too deeply into it, but I know what his statement was, and I have it here. I'm just going to kind of read it out and react to it. Now, for those who don't know any of this, I'll do a little bit of backstory. John Connors is a actor in Ireland. He's been in a few kind of hit TV shows, so you could call him a kind of celebrity here, or probably a household name in Ireland, I would say. And he's also a vocal traveller rights, traveller advocacy person. He's a traveller himself, and so basically that's what he's known for. That's the guy, kind of household name in Ireland, actor slash sort of activist. And in the last couple of years, I don't know the timeline exactly, but he's flirted a little bit with nationalist people, kind of a traditional, what would you say, dissident right. Everything from pro-life to, he did a sit-down interview with Gran Torino, I'm sure you know him, and stuff like that. So just a kind of a marginal kind of relationship. But he's kind of known as a lefty as well. So he kind of, you could say he's an independent guy. He talks to these people, he talks to those people, he believes some of this and some of this, etc. And the most recent thing, the thing that has kind of brought us to what I'm going to tell you about today, is Roderick O'Gorman, the Minister for Children in Ireland, was pictured 2 years ago, and it's a bit convoluted, but he was pictured 2 years ago with a British Australian activist called Peter Tatchell, who has been known for, some people say, paedophilia advocacy or apologism. All sorts of quotes on that. He said that 9-year-olds can get great joy from sexual encounters with adults, stuff like that. So a lot of people, including myself, took issue with that, and a controversy basically began, and it culminated in the Saturday before last. There was a protest outside the Dáil Éireann, the Parliament building in Dublin, Ireland. Most of you are Irish, like Dublin, Ireland. You get what I'm saying. But yeah, there was a protest, and it's outside the Parliament building, we shall say, and about 1,000 people showed up. A couple of Antifa came along. There was a bit of ruckus. Different political parties in Ireland, the National Party, Irish Freedom Party, Renua, these kind of broadly dissident right type parties showed up, and it was a good day. Generally peaceful, happy, successful protest. And John Connors was one of the speakers, a guest speaker, independent speaker, I suppose. And he gave a rousing speech, and he said he would stand up for children against this kind of creeping sexualization, maybe transgender agenda, and I'm coining that one, but general kind of like almost subtle nods towards lowering age of consent and bringing in a radical kind of very explicit sex education for primary school children. This kind of general agenda he was kind of speaking out against, in line with some of the dissident right parties. And that was his point of view. And I suppose that point of view is quite fitting for an outspoken traveller, because travellers, of course, in Ireland are known. They were kind of almost like an independent community who live, I don't know, is gypsy an insult? I'm not sure or not. I'm not trying to be offensive to anyone, but they're kind of a nomadic or whatever, for those who aren't Irish. Anyway, point is, travellers are well known for being very traditional, whether it's pro-life. Probably, let's face it, a lot of people would be against gay marriage and stuff like that, and you name it. They're just very Catholic, very traditional, probably very patriarchal. That doesn't speak for every traveller, of course, but just in general it's a trend, right? Far more traditional, you could say, than the average Irish person. So in a way he's kind of somewhat representative, as much as anyone can be representative of a group. I mean, he's not out of step with the people, some of the people he kind of is seen to represent in a way as a traveller. Anyway, beyond that, he's just an Irishman. He's a dub, whatever. It's not his only identity. Anyway, that's John Connors. He showed up at that, and he caught a lot of flack because he mixes with some of these kind of, because of his acting career, clearly mixes with some establishment figures and depends on that kind of community, that kind of ecosystem. Media, journalists, NGOs, film production companies, all of that whole milieu. So, it was quite a brave step for him to take any of these views over the years, be it pro-life or anything else. And he took a firm stance on this Roderick O'Gorman, Peter Tatchell paedophilia controversy, you could say. And he spoke factually. He didn't lie about anything. He didn't misquote any fact in specific. And nor did he... Roderick O'Gorman, this Minister for Children, happens to be gay as well. And, John Connors didn't mention anything about the sexuality of this minister in question. He just said he's got a questionable history and basically refuses to clearly denounce this paedophile apologist who he's been associated with. So that's the controversy, right? And anyway, the point is that he stood firm on that, and I'll link below in the description a video of his speech. I uploaded one of them, a video of his speech and maybe a short clip. I'll put some links in the description if you want to just catch up. And his speech was, very fiery, very defiant. He one thing that sticks with me, he said, "This is the hill I'm willing to die on, protecting children from this kind of creeping sexualization." And a minister who refuses to properly, unequivocally denounce a paedophile apologist. He said, "This is the hill I'm willing to die on. They've cancelled me before, they're going to cancel me again. Well, this is a hill I'm willing to die on." And he said, the phrase that really stuck with me was, he said, the people who are trying to cancel me, the people who are putting this pressure on me, they say, and I'm quoting John Connors here, they say, "If you back down, we'll back off." Or the reverse, "If you back off, we'll back down." He was saying they were doing basically the arm restraint technique on him. We're giving you a lot of trouble. Probably threats and intimidation of various descriptions, but if you just back down, we'll back off. It's like, if you stop resisting, then the pain goes away. And he said, "I will never back down. I will never back down, because this is the right thing." So that was the Saturday before last, so a week and a bit later. Some of us go on Twitter to find this. I'll read it to you, all of it, and we'll just dwell on it then for a second. He says, just out of nowhere. Oh, and by the way, for the last week, his Twitter page, he's changed his name to just cancelled, which is a kind of a defiant two fingers to the people that are trying to cancel him, or just saying, "I'm being persecuted by these people, I'm cancelled." That's what these people are like. He's very outspoken, very, very strident, And of course, so then suddenly, I think it was last night, maybe this morning at some point, he comes out with this screenshotted statement. He says, "I would like to publicly apologise to the Minister for Children, Disability and Integration, Roderick O'Gorman, for remarks I made about him online at a recent rally outside Leinster House on July 11th. They were so wrong and unfair at every level. Okay, I allowed myself to be led and be part of an online frenzy that cast hurtful and false allegations on his character and pursued him in the most unfair way. I am so sorry for any hurt I caused Minister O'Gorman, and I have sent him a letter offering him my sincere apologies." So online frenzy. "There is no justification for my actions, but I think I need to give some sense of how I lost my way and behaved as I did. The last numbers of years I've experienced a number of tragedies which has taken its toll on my mental health. I know I have not dealt with grief, anger and other issues, and I have recently found myself unravelling. This is no way to excuse what I said and how I behaved. Looking back, I'm sick to my stomach." Looking back to a week ago, right? "What is difficult for me to accept is that my own misguided anger led me to appear to feed an army of trolls and support groups whose views I find repugnant." What a difference a week makes. Back to the text. "Whose politics are rotten and whose methods are ugly. What isn't said becomes a symptom, and I'm not dealing with my emotional problems. And in not dealing with my emotional problems, I went into a dark hole and lost myself, and now I find myself in a position where I seemed to have sided with the very people whose politics I most despise. I have been politically naive. I did not fully inform myself of their views, and I am truly horrified that I have in any way enabled them." It goes on. "I've battled bigotry my whole life, and my deranged pursuit of Minister O'Gorman played a huge part in the homophobic backlash he received by the very bigots I despise. I wholeheartedly reject any association with any organisation that disrespects the dignity or rights of any community. My nationalism is one of equality for all, people on this island, regardless of colour, creed, or sexual orientation. I thought we were talking about paedophile advocates here, not any creed, colour, or sexual orientation. But anyway, that's me. That's my editorialism there. Back to the text. I'm fully supportive of LGBTQ rights, and it pains me that anything I have said and any of my associations with these people might have in any way hurt the wider cause of LGBTQ, and specifically those LGBTQ people in the travelling community who are fighting the good fight. I am firmly on their side, the side of my fellow Mankiri. I'm pronouncing Minkiri. It's an Osquelga word, I don't know it, I'll just be honest, right? Minkiri, I think it is. Anyway, life goes on. Love unites, hate divides. In all of this, my sentiments were sincere, but unfortunately my own state of mind distorted how I went about trying to express myself, especially online. I recognise that anger and blame cast on others is a way of not taking responsibility for the pain within. I have decided to withdraw from all social media platforms for the foreseeable future to concentrate on doing some work on myself and concentrate on the thing that keeps me going in life, writing, acting and directing. I lost my grandfather recently. He was a father figure to me, the person I aspired to be, and once said to me, "You're no man if you can't admit when you're wrong and say sorry, son." I can only say again how deeply and truly sorry I am for the hurt and pain I caused everyone, specifically Minister O'Gorman. So that's John. You know, in terms of his comments about losing loved ones, sympathies to John, and you know, anybody, I mean, everyone experiences this kind of stuff at some point. It's never easy. I don't say that cynically or to get it out of the way, but I mean, I have to note that before I say anything else, or in spite of anything else, obviously. But I mean, my thoughts, and again, I'm going off the cuff here, right? I haven't prepared. I mean, it sounds like a Soviet show trial message. My deranged attack on the minister. You know, you saw this guy a week ago. Again, the video's in the description. But I've seen people online have different reactions. Some people are angry towards him for being a kind of a turncoat, a kind of a flake, whatever, you know. And I'm not particularly. I mean, he's an actor. It's worth noting as well, he's got a film out in like 2 weeks to promote, I suppose, but I don't know. But people are angry with him personally, and it's like, to me, it's all about the regime at play here. They just put pressure on him, and how it happened, I don't know. Of course, I have to state that, you know, obviously, the first thing people might want to do is read what he said, and in theory, it's possible that what he said is just all it is, the start and end of it. That's in theory, but I think it would be reasonable for some people to speculate, you know, just everyone's allowed to do that, that there's lawsuit, blackmail, or career ruination afoot there, you know. It seems reasonable to speculate that, right? And the question then would be which one of those, or which combination of those. It doesn't make any sense. I was talking to a friend of mine earlier who said maybe it is just his point of view, and I don't know, I just had to be like, come on, you know, read it again. And I think we agreed in the end that, yeah, okay, that makes no sense. A week to change your view. A hill to go from a hill to die on to, I deeply apologise for my frenzied, deranged attack on Minister O'Gorman, which is somehow homophobic. Nobody ever said that. But yeah, to me, it's just kind of sad. It's like I'm obviously involved in that kind of activism, journalism and stuff, so you might go, what's your personal opinion on him, because you were part of that demo, etc., whatever. And my thing is, like, not really towards him. For one, he's just, to me, a victim of the regime pressure, which can be quite intense, especially for someone like him who's out there in the spotlight. But it's more general, because it's like the March for Innocence had like 1,000 people show up, which for Ireland is pretty big, and it was successful and a great day. And there might be more, you know, these things grow. The nationalism in Ireland grows all the time. So it's like no movement or activism depends on an actor or a socialite or whatever you want to call him, a celebrity. It wouldn't be much of a movement if it depended on his, you know, open support or whatever. So that's that. I'm not hugely push. I don't think you should be either. I don't think you should be vindictive towards him. I think best of luck with whatever you do, right? It's more just a general thing. We know what the reason for doing this. A regime does this, and it is a regime. It's via media, NGOs. I'll link some newspaper articles as well. They all, instead of covering the protest, they said far-right homophobic attack on minister, as opposed to people protest the minister doing this. They hid the ball on that, and then and it was all lied about by the media, grossly lied about, and universally every single one of them, which makes it seem obviously systemic and regime-esque. You know what I mean? So it's that media, it's NGOs, and I suppose it's fellow people in the culture type of thing. But it's mainly media and NGOs have the power here, and what they're trying to do is assert that power and uncouple a kind of a figure, a known and respected sort of figure, from this movement, this dark fringe movement, and to try and create that clear blue sky between the two things. And to do that against someone like John Connors at all costs, they view as extremely important, and they would view it as damaging for us and stuff. I actually don't think it is particularly. Again, I'm glad we don't depend on people like that. He came along, he gave a speech, great speech, well done, great, the more the better, and brilliant. He's an influencer, we could say, but he came to the rally didn't come to him, but they view it as really important and a real kind of deadly blow to create these to separate people this way. The other aspect is to show everybody else that any other celebrity, you name it, like so-and-so, so-and-so, I won't name them, right? I know some people who would rub shoulders with us a little bit. It's a warning to them that, if you do make the move towards them, we've cancelled John Connors, or we've done worse than cancel him. We've made him bend the knee and prostrate himself. So we can do it to you too, etc. We've always known that's the way it is. I think it still grows. I think next time there's a big protest for a good cause, could be soon, it's going to be more and more and more and more, and it's going to be ordinary people who stand up in the crowd. It doesn't depend on celebrities, ideally, so it doesn't matter too much that way. But that's what they're trying to do anyways, to show everybody else. I don't think anybody believes, even the lefties, the kind of shit libs, let's say, who don't like him and are still grumpy about it. I don't really accept that apology. And then people on the dissident right who are like, oh, how could you turn coat like that? There's a bit of an agreement between them, these strange bedfellows at the moment. But what they agree on, what everybody agrees on, looking at that, is that is not sincere. That's basically written for him. I can't say that technically. I can't say something I don't know. But if some people feel like, this is just bullshit, basically. It's like I mentioned a while ago, it's like a Soviet show trial recanting Galileo recanting his theories. It's that kind of thing, a forced confession, a forced retraction, and a humble apology and all of this. That's what it is. Everybody knows it. I'm saying it, right? But I'm not alone. Everybody, you won't find anyone, except for the people who are creating this kind of forced confession type of thing, who are like, oh, we'll accept your apology, John, we'll accept you bending the knee. Everybody else who isn't them, the small group of people who've created this, it's obvious. It's not even up for discussion or debate. Everybody's just like, yeah, this is some kind of Maoist type of struggle session forced thing, and the only disagreement then is like, oh, you betrayed your word, and then other people are like, we won't accept you back, but we agree that it's a fake forced hostage note, basically. And that's my thing on it. It's not like, oh no, John Connors won't go to the next demo, la la la. It's like, no, it's fine. It is. It's more just that I would be sad to see that in any regime and any time in history and any place, almost for any reason really. I wouldn't like to see that. Even someone who I hate, whose political views I hate in a different country. A Chinese person believes X, Y, and Z, which makes them a dissident. It happens to be something I don't like. Even so, on principle, I don't really stand, or I don't stand with him on the issue, but they force him to recant. They force him to sign this confession, an apology, which everybody knows he doesn't believe. that would sadden me to see that presented to the public, the head kind of held up, and the knee bent. It's like, I would just be like, oh man, I'd rather see him die on that hill, so to speak, figuratively speaking. I'd rather see him say, no, force me, make me, do what you want. And yet, what we're seeing here, detach the politics of the people who've done it to him, the politics of the people he was associating with that got him in trouble, which are kind of mine. Detach all that and just view it for what it is: a dissident, someone who flirted with a dissident movement, who was forced to bend the knee in front of everybody, and basically declare himself insane. Declare himself, I know it was only a week ago, but I lost my mental faculties. The Soviet Union was infamous for this, for abusing the psychiatry, and for basically that was one of the big things when a dissident came out and said something, or any person in society, and they couldn't just be killed and executed, because then they'd be like a martyr. You have to get them up and force them to say, I was crazy, I was unwell, I was grieving, I was this, I was that. And it forced me to have all these opinions for years, and to go to a thing just last week, but suddenly I'm now listening, I'm educating myself, all that stuff. That is like something out of a dystopian novel. And that's my thing, is that it's just sad to see. We know why they did it. We know why they forced them to do it. The point of it is to demoralize, to aggravate you and to demoralize you effectively. And even onlooking normal public, it kind of subconsciously is meant to demoralize them as well and warn them off and stuff. So the first thing you can do is take that kind of tension out of you and just go, no, it's not wise to react to stimuli that have been put there by people you know are have malevolent intentions, and who are against you. If they do something to make you feel bad, you just have to not do that. You have to, if they make you feel demoralized in some way, you have to go, well, I'm intentionally not going to be demoralized by this, obviously, right? And put it into context, and it's not a big deal. And that's kind of the way I see it, genuinely. It's not for the nationalist dissident right movement in Ireland in any way. Decouple it from that and just view it for what it is. It's sad. It's sad to live in such a tyranny, such an obvious tyranny. Liberalism used to be a bit more subtle, and it's getting more and more, and it's being forced to, and I think people can see it, more and more Stalinist, basically, in its methods. And you can see that right there. Just look up some videos of the demo. If you're an objective person, let's say, and you don't want to believe me or believe the papers or whatever, just look it up for yourself. Look at the people who were for and against this rally. Look at videos of the speeches at the rally. Then read the newspaper columns about the rally or the demo. Watch some of what John Connor said in the last few weeks or years, or his interview with Gran Torino, any of this kind of stuff, and then read his thing. Like, go through it all for yourself, so you don't believe me. I guarantee you will come out the other side going, that is an insane level of what you would think of as like Chinese dictatorship or something like that. It's not subtle, it's not cancel culture, it's full on regime. And bear in mind, Connors was ultimately criticizing, they say, oh, it was because it's homophobic or something somehow, right? Put that aside for a sec, right? He was ultimately criticizing a minister of the government. You know what I mean? He wasn't criticizing some activist. He wasn't criticizing Mother Teresa or, I don't know, Martin Luther King or one of these figures people would get defensive about or something. He was criticizing just a member of the government. And government agents, government agencies got to him in some way. NGOs, I could name the names and the people. They know who they are. You know who they are, right? It doesn't really matter who they are. They are just doing their job. Literally, they're another day, another dollar, right? Literally earning their wages for the job that they're hired to do. So government activists and agents who liaise then with state regime media, effectively, and corporate media, effectively conspired to force him into this position. And we don't know what lawsuits or blackmail went on or any of that stuff, if any. We'll say, I don't know, it's just speculation. But you have effectively NGOs paid by the state directly, by the Department of Foreign Affairs, by the Department of Rural Affairs or whatever, by the Department of Justice, now actually by Roderick's Department of Integration, they call it. So we have NGOs and activists who are directly paid via the department that Roderick O'Gorman is the minister for in government, went after and got this celebrity in this position to have to do this forced knee bending. I mean, that, tell me where I'm wrong. That's a full-on regime thing, and I don't know. Again, I'm not trying. It's not a cope. It isn't. It really isn't. Like, it's not actually a big deal objectively. And I think actually in a way it's a favourable thing. Like all these things, the more you force their hand to be more like this, it becomes more and more obvious to others. Like there will be many other kind of celebrity influencers and whatever. Some of them will get scared. They'll get the message that was intended. They'll say, woof, I wouldn't want to do that. Yeah, fair enough. Some will. But there'll be a lot of people who will watch this for how blunt it was and how totalitarian it was effectively and almost creepy, you know. And it'll get the gears turning in their head. It will, because there's no avoiding it. You don't have to be a like I'm Mr. YouTube here. I'm thinking about these things. Apparently, this is like my thing. You don't have to be all into it. You just totally a person who doesn't follow politics and culture too much. You just see that for exactly what I've described it as over the last 10-20 minutes. Everything I'm kind of saying, I think, occurs to you immediately when you read that apology. It's obvious. It's an instant thing. You go, you know what it is. And all those people, all these other influencers and onlookers and normal people like ourselves will see that for what it is immediately. And that ultimately has an effect on their credibility as a liberal regime. And that's what they hang their hat on, is that they depend on saying, oh no, it's all about rights and the government just administrates the state objectively and all that. That all goes away very quickly when you force their hand. It's like chess. It's like, yeah, they took the piece, but they had to invest. They had to invest a couple of pawns and a bishop in there, or whatever. They had to kind of expose themselves to do it. And that happens every time. So always pushing forward, even if they take a scalp or cut you down in various ways like this as you go forward, they're bringing themselves out too. It's just a little bit of a game theory way I view this. Now, what else? I mean, in terms of, I can't come out and say John Connors was blackmailed, right? Because he said his confession or whatever it's called. We can only officially go on what he said, right? But say if someone were to be a theorist on it and say maybe he were blackmailed, because some people would say that because the turnaround, the U-turn was so quick and so abrupt and jarring that it's like, that doesn't come from someone just leaning on you and gaslighting you for a couple of days. No, that's something hard had to be brought to you, some would say, for that to happen, right? Something like a lawsuit or something like financial ruination or blackmail. Blackmail, I think, is the strongest weapon in that sense. Like, for if it's bad enough, a lot of people would just run, right? Again, I'm not even suggesting that he was. I don't know anything about it beyond what was said. I'm just saying any theory can be put out about anything speculatively. And if that were the case, I would just say, just document everything. Document everything that was done to you, anything that's written, anything that's online. Document it, screenshot it, and sit on it till your grave if you want to. But document it. Just keep it somewhere where it doesn't go away. They don't have to know. And who knows, maybe in 30 years you can put it on your dead man switch, after you're gone or something. If that's the case, then document it. Otherwise, I don't know, best of luck. It's like, whatever. Whatever, who cares, in a way. A lot of flies coming at me here. For like dissident right nationalist people, don't dwell on it. Don't even get mad at the guy. He just, I don't know, he's put in some kind of position. Move on. Have another protest. Like, don't place too much faith in one person, really, ever, I would say. That's basically it. That's my take. I don't know. Subscribe, please. That would be very nice. Thank you. And so this is a pre-upload. Just as a quick note as well, I think I'm going to stop live streaming because my internet is so bad. It's just a bad kind of product to be giving you, and I feel bad. So I might just do uploads like this slightly less often, just because the quality is better, obviously. And I hope I hope what I said made sense. I know I'm going to turn this off and walk away and be so annoyed. There was some thoughts I had on this that I've left off. Yeah, I would just say move on, but their hand was forced a little bit. They exposed their authoritarianism, and it's not even just authoritarianism; it is full on totalitarianism. It's full Soviet mode basically. And I've always said, just in case you think I'm making it up as a cope, I've said in the past year, in as far as a year ago, I'd say, I've said forcing the regime to expose the lie of their own so-called liberalism is in a way step one. It's a tough, difficult phase, but it's important in its way. And this is just an element of that happening. Full-on Stalinist, all good. We move on, we plough on. And yeah, to John Connors, I don't know, I would say you've done it now. Don't, just move on, enjoy your film release or whatever. One unfortunate thing is that I don't think he'll ever really be forgiven, in truth. They'll strategically forgive him for a while, but he'll always, they'll remember. They know it's what appears to be a complete fake show trial thing. They know that. And the sad part about it is that I thought he could have an extremely viable political career as not a nationalist dissident right type of thing, but elements of that, lots of elements are left, mainly left, kind of populist type of guy running in Kulak, at the area he's from, as a local populist candidate. He's got name recognition, he's got all that. He could have been a TD. And that would be the path he'd have to go. I don't think he could make it as a singularly leftist, exclusively, or a right. I think he would be a good, taking from both populist, nationalist populist, I suppose. But that probably is gone. You can never say never, but it's the kind of whole thing of burning the bridges on both sides here. But I don't know, and I don't wish bad on anybody. I wish him the best either way, to be honest. But yeah, it's the regime. The regime had to take a toll, as in they had to take a toll. Basically, their Antifa got ran out of it at last. They got humiliated the Saturday before last at that demo. They got absolutely crushed and humiliated. I don't identify particularly with the blue shirts, right? But from some of these Antifa's perspectives, I saw them online saying this is the biggest, their words, not mine, far right or whatever, show of public public showing since the blue shirts, they said. So they're wetting themselves about this, and I think the higher ups, the actual regime enforcer kind of statsy, the NGOs, they had to do something, and they have a lot of power and a lot of ways and means, and they do study psychological warfare, and they understand all this stuff. I'm sure they've studied it from past regimes, Soviet regimes, Maoist, all of that kind of stuff. They're well studied up in psychological warfare, so they know what they're doing. So it is a battle in a sort of a way, and just we have a little bit of a casualty there. And I don't know. I don't feel bad for me. I don't even feel bad for him. He'll move on and do his thing. I just feel bad for honor. It's like honor, and there's something about it. It's just sad. It's sad to see someone kind of bow so blatantly to a regime like that. Anyway, I've rambled enough. Like I say, subscribe and mind yourselves. Thanks for watching. See ya.